In this video, we are going to explain the differences between project management and business analysis. And for that, we are going to see the focus of each of these domains, the main tasks, the role of the business analyst and the project manager, and finally, what are the top 2 skills for each of these 2 professionals. Let's get started with the focus. The business analysis requires first that you identify the business needs. So here, the main thing is that you identify the business need. And I'd like to emphasize on this. This is what the business analyst need to understand. Is there a need for the product that we are going to work on? Is there a value from this product? So here we can consider the business need as the value. Is there any opportunity of doing the project? Here is the first part. Once the business need is identified, we move forward with gathering or collecting and analyzing those requirements which are needed in order to develop the product and, most importantly, satisfy the customer. Or here we could say the stakeholders in general, or the end users that are going to use the product. So this is the focus of business analysis. On the other hand, the focus of project manager is that we do proper planning. And here, when we say planning, it means that planning the schedule, planning the budget, planning the risk, planning the quality, all kind of plannings that you can imagine of. Once we have all these plans, we do the execution. And this entails that the project manager manages people, engages stakeholders, and do all the activities to ensure that plans are followed in order to achieve the project goal. And finally, keep monitoring and controlling the project in order to achieve the project goals like we said, and remove any blockers that could encounter the project team down the road. These are the main things related to project management. Alright, till this point we know the difference between project management and business analysis. What are the main activities for business analysis? We said that we need to identify business needs and gather and analyze requirements. So one of the tasks is requirements gathering and analysis. And also we said that we need to satisfy the customer or the stakeholders. Therefore, the second task that the business analysis involves is stakeholder analysis and engagement. And that's not enough actually, because the business analysis involves that the business analyst should be able to develop the design of the solution. Therefore, we could have here solution design, and also we cannot design without having an insight of what existing in the market and what other competitors are doing and what is the innovation in our industry. So all these are in the market analysis area. Okay, when it comes to the project management, on the other hand, we have the planning as one of the main activities that we do in the project management. We do a lot of planning, especially for the predictive projects. Even though the agile projects, we have plannings for each sprints, etc. So planning is one of the main activities that we see in project management. Also, leading people is one of the activities that we do on a daily basis. We are going to execute the project, and how we can do that without the leadership skill in leading people and moving them forward. But what if problems occurs? In this case, the project manager should have the problem solving skills and One of the tasks is solving problems on a regular basis, but when they took place, they are having much more impact than what you have imagined. Team members who leave the project, stakeholders who are not happy, all these kind of problems that you need to deal with on a daily basis. And these are parts of executing and monitoring your project. And since we mentioned the monitoring, and this is one of the tasks that the project manager should do continuously from the day one of the start of the project till the end of the project. Okay, that's the activities for the business analysis and the project management. Now let's have an overview of what the business analyst is doing and what the project manager is doing. The business analyst is actually the bridge between the stakeholders. And when I say the stakeholders, usually here are the business stakeholders, people who are going to use the product. So these are the stakeholders that usually the business analyst is dealing with. And first, they together try to come up with the needs, they analyze the requirements, etc. And once the project starts, the business analyst will interact with the project team, and the business analyst will coordinate between the stakeholders or the end users and the project team members. So that's the project manager, what they are doing. Before the start of the project, they do a lot of work with the stakeholders to identify the business needs and gather, analyze requirements. And once the project starts, the business analyst will play the role of the mediator or coordinator between the expectations of the stakeholders and what the project team member is doing. All right. Therefore, what are the top 2 skills required? If we see this, we see that first we need to define the product. So the first skill is analytical skills. The analytical skills permits the business analysis to understand, does this solution fits in the market? Does the end users would like to use this way? Does this process fits with the culture of the organization? All these are analytical analysis that the business analyst should deal with. Also, the business analyst should be able to treat the numbers. If they can analyze data properly, gather some data about the market, about the preferences of the end users, and use Excel sheets and try to find insights through those data. So this is the analytical skills that the business analyst should have in order to come up with a product that satisfies the customer's need and resolve a real problem. All right. We said then that the business analyst will play the role of a mediator or coordinator between the expectations of stakeholders and the project team. And if you are coordinating between 2 kinds of stakeholders, what skill do you need? Of course, communication. Communication is important for business analysts because they need to always share the vision to the project team. And if the project team encounters or have some information, the business analyst needs to go back and communicate with the stakeholders. So they play a very important role, and having the right communication skills is important when talking with these 2 different types of stakeholders. Of course, there are other skills that the business analyst could have, but I have just chosen to list here 2 so you will not be overwhelmed. Let's move on to the project manager. The project manager is going to deal with various stakeholders. So here I could say various stakeholders. Why is that? Because they are not just business stakeholders who have a relationship with the product. They could be external stakeholders, they could be providers, they could be the sponsor, they could be anyone who not necessarily involved in gathering or analyzing the requirements or approving the products. So the project manager is going to deal with various stakeholders, and also at the same time, they will deal with all team members by coordinating between all of them in order to achieve the project goal. So here, the project manager is trying to communicate with all stakeholders and coordinate with all team members in order to achieve the project goal. So in terms of broadness, the project manager is having, let's say, more things to deal with and they have more responsibility. So in order to do that, what is the most important two skills? Since we said that they need to collaborate with team members and they need to deal with various stakeholders, the most important skill is the leadership. And a project manager cannot succeed if they don't have the planning skills. And the planning skills you cannot have without the organization. Therefore, being organized is so important as a project manager in order to succeed in your project. That's the top two for the project manager, being a leader and organized person. For the business analyst, having analytical skills and communication. Of course, being a good communicator is super important for the project manager and it's part of the leadership.